There was a leak for Elite Dangerous all the way back in 2019. An alleged leak, that is. It was never confirmed, but when are these things ever confirmed? Now, many of the things on this leak turned out to be true. Quite a few didn't. There were some really strange ones in there. One of the things, of course, was base building. Rumours persisted for many years that base building would be a part of the next big Elite Dangerous expansion, Odyssey. Turned out that wasn't to be true, although it took Frontier a very long time to actually deny it. The point is then, what am I saying? Well, there's a long history with Elite Dangerous of information, both from official channels and unofficial channels, of content that Elite Dangerous one day will have. Ultimately, much of this has made it into the game, so today I want to talk about where Elite Dangerous has been and where it's going, and form some of the basis for this from information that's, well, from Frontier themselves. Just to look at this, for example. This is a very short GIF from 2013, and it shows a pilot, a player, outside of their seat but inside of their cockpit, and yeah, doing it with no gravity. Over the years then, there's certainly been a lot of things like this. Take a look at this piece of concept art, for example. Now, very hard for me to kind of work out what this is. Obviously it is a space station of some sort, but what are all these loose components about it? This is very old concept art, by the way. Was made available back during the Kickstarter days of 2012 to 2013. It looks to me, though, that this is the basis, the chassis perhaps, of a space station with some loose parts around it that may be fitted to it, and maybe a few spaceships thrown into the mix as well. Kind of hard to see because as this is, well, it's a rough image, as some very early concept art is. But take a look at this. These are some official images, screenshots from the upcoming Elite Dangerous Trailblazers add-on, the update that's coming later this month. And yeah, well, you let me know, what do you think? Can you see the relationship between these two images? Am I stretching a little bit here? Am I kind of going out on a limb here and making a link where there isn't any? Or can you, like me, see a connection between these two images? Do they bear some similarity to each other? I think they actually do. The point I'm making then is that Frontier have long said for many years they have a long-term plan for Elite Dangerous. Now, back in the day, back when 2014, around about the time that the game was released, a little bit before, it was largely suggested and believed by the community that Frontier had a 10-year plan for Elite Dangerous. Now, I think some of that kind of went into decline because we've had a few years where nothing went on, and ultimately, I think much of the stuff that was planned for the game didn't make it in during that time period. That's not to say it will never make it in. After all, I think the example we used back earlier in the video of the concept art of that space station looking like it's being assembled very closely matches the upcoming update and the screenshot, and that to me suggests that these things were planned a long time ago. And therefore, it's not too much of a stretch, at least I don't think, to say that some of the things that Frontier planned all those years back, well, they could still be on the way. Now, the intent of this video is not to create a load of hype and anything like that, because I don't want to get people's expectations up too high. But at the same time, Frontier are very clearly working on Elite Dangerous at a level that they haven't worked on it for many years now. What's more, we know from recent earnings calls that Elite Dangerous is making Frontier quite a bit of money, well, at least to the extent that they're very happy with how it is performing, and well, it makes sense that they're going to want to funnel all of that money back into the game to continue to increase those earnings, doesn't it? Elite is where it should have been a long time back, and the colonization update is a very good sign for things. Now, I could go into some detail here on what I'm looking forward to and with colonization and why I think it's an important update, but I have discussed that elsewhere, and for now I'd rather focus on some of the other areas that have been discussed in the past about Elite. So let's take a very quick look at a few examples. A good place to do this is the Elite Dangerous digital art book. There's a quote on page 40. It was important to consider the view, not just from the cockpit, but also from the deck of the landing pad to make room for possible expansions. As with everything in Elite Dangerous, we try to think about how our designs will work when they're out of the ship and walking around in these spaces. It's a walk players may get to take someday. Now, the digital art book was published many years ago, long before the release of Odyssey. Yet Frontier were clearly thinking about the concept of walking around inside space stations even back then. So yeah, the reason a lot of people kept asking for the ability to walk around was largely because Frontier kept seeding that information, kept seeding that notion, that idea. So yeah, ultimately that did pay off. We did get the ability to walk inside the stations. So what point am I trying to make here? Well, we're 10 years, over 10 years in fact, into the game's release cycle. And I think so far, Frontier are not straying too far off the beaten path of the things they initially had planned. They had the broad strokes laid down, and they're slowly, piece by piece, introducing some of those. It may be a stretch to say, but I do think colonization has long been planned, and yeah, we can simply base that on some of the concept art here, or we can look for some of the other suggestions and other bits of information that Frontier have scattered around over the years. So that kind of leaves me wondering about the future of the game. We do know that Frontier hopefully are going to be discussing a roadmap for 2025 very soon, but I'm not thinking just 25 content, I'm also thinking 26, 27 and hopefully beyond. Assuming that Frontier stick to the broad strokes that we've seen them lay down in the past, and every indication is suggesting that that's what they're doing, at least up until this point, and including the colonization, maybe. Well, where do we look? Well, we can look to a little bit further into the digital artwork book. On page 83, Frontier say, we're always looking at the future. That focus on what comes next has influenced every design you've seen in this book, from working landing gear with the boarding ramp to starport walkways built for standing on. Some of the designs developed early in development have been added in recent updates, and some concepts will come in fruition in future releases. Inevitably, some concepts will fall by the wayside as plans change and the game design evolves. So, saying here that not everything in the artwork book is going to make it in, but it's very clear the intention was to include at least some of it. So on the pages that accompany that quote, we got page 90 here, 91 in a minute, which we'll have a look at, as well as 92, we got a lot of interesting things. We got a guy outside his ship, EVA, a beautiful looking cityscape, a few things we've already got in the game, such as the SRV moving around on what looks to be an icy planet, a building interior, as well as a ship docked on what looks to be a planetary port. The following page shows us some more interiors, likely of space stations here, very different to the type of space station interiors we've got right now, but I guess this is just a broad concept. And then another image of what looks to be a character moving around inside Zero-G. The third image shows a ship inside what is described here as a nebula, but with a storm. And this we've now got, or we've had for a long time in fact, inside the Lagrange clouds. Ultimately then, I really do feel that the digital art book still provides a pretty rough guide as to what Frontier are working towards with Elite Dangerous. Those last 3 pages there, some of that content is in the game, and that book was released long before any of that content was in the game. And there's still a number of things that appear to be outstanding. Whether or not they are a part of the things that have fallen by the wayside, or whether they may come in the future, we'll only know as, when and if Frontier announce them. The point is then that it's very clear that Frontier are far from being done with Elite Dangerous, and it kind of feels that they're still following some of the broad strokes they laid down many years ago. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you. There's another video on the screen right here if you want to watch that one. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.